But preacher, I thought you'd said before that we are valuable to God. We are. We're valuable. But God can't use the value that we possess if it's locked away and hidden by a whole bunch of impurities. If our value is covered up by dirt and grime and rock and sediment and impurities, God can't show the world the value we have. He can't use us to purchase other things that He desires to own for Himself, because no one will take our value now as payment for what He's asking from them. It's a difficult principle to get a hold of. If we know that God is a refiner and that He only refines by fire, are we willing to look Him in the eye and say, would you please turn up the heat? Would you turn up the heat, God, in my life? And would you make my desire to be holy, to be pure, to be worth something, so that other people who don't have anything, who have that worth hidden deep inside of them, will see what you can do with a life filled with faith after all the impurities have been taken out? Is there anybody in here who would say, God, I really want you to do that in my life? Be careful what you ask for. Remember, God is a God who really desires to give us the desires of our heart. Many times I feel God has given us possessions. I feel like God has given us things. I feel like God has given us answers to our prayers when He had so much more that He wanted to give us. But He did not want us to be disappointed. I think maybe our disappointment may make us more valuable. Just a thought. I don't know a whole lot. I do know that many times in my life, the things I thought I had figured out, God showed me I had it all backwards. One last example, and I'll close in this. There was a time in my life when I was running from God in a big time way. I had been called to preach. I'd surrendered. I'd been away. I trained at college, and I just knew that God was going to use me. And I allowed my selfishness and my pride and my arrogance to have complete control and complete rule over my own life, and I was running from the plan God had in my life. And I was over 1,000 miles away, getting up early in the morning, in the middle of the wintertime, and running up hills that were higher than I'd ever seen in my life, and wondering, God, why in the world? Why in the world? I was sort of living like the devil back then. And I got a phone call. Well, I actually made a phone call one night. Late one night. I made a phone call and found out that my father had been rushed to the hospital. And I couldn't get any information from anyone, couldn't get any answers from anyone about how he was doing and what was going on. It wasn't looking good. I talked to Sherry's mom. She was at the hospital with my mom. I couldn't get over to either one of them. 5 o'clock the next morning, I went and talked to my platoon sergeant. And he said, Marlo, you need to go call home. I didn't know he got a phone call about 2 that morning that my father had passed away. That was a really, really hard time for me. But I see that right now as the turning point that brought me back to desiring to have a relationship with God and desiring to follow His plan in my ministry. I miss my dad, but if my dad was still alive today, who knows where I would be and what I would be doing. I see that affliction in my life. I see that pain in my life. I see that hurt in my life as a turning point that brought me back to God. Has anybody in here lost someone or something, and all of a sudden you woke up and said, I'm not serving God the way I'm supposed to be? Then say thank you for the affliction that you gave me if it made me worth more.
Amen.
I wish it didn't take affliction. But when I look back at my life, the times I thought I'd lost a lot, when I realized how much closer to God I got after the loss, I now understand that He chose me in the furnace of affliction, because my faith is worth so much more than gold. And only when it is heated up and tested can the impurities really be brought out. And can I really see the value that God has and that He sees in me. My desire for you is that you would see the value that God already sees in you. And I would pray for my church family that you would not have to suffer affliction. But more than that, I would pray that you would be of great, great value to God, even if it meant affliction. Some preacher you are. I'm never going to come talk to you again. What if we've had it all wrong? What if we've had it all wrong?